I'm Ann Makovic, and this is The Minute. The stock market sell-off continues for a third day as President Trump doubles down on tariffs. The Dow plunged 1,200 points, or about 3%, when markets opened this morning. Today, Trump also vowed to raise tariffs against China if they don't withdraw their retaliatory tariffs. Homeless tents being removed around Lake Merritt in Oakland today. City leaders shut down Peralta Park so workers can plant trees and put up new fences. A spokeswoman for the city says outreach workers are offering homeless campers services and shelter. And Oakland City workers returning to the office today. The new policy requires them to be in the building for at least 4 days a week. This marks the end of the flexible work-from-home schedules that started during the pandemic. The Bay Area's only primetime newscasts at 8 and 9 p.m. on Pix Plus, 44 Cable 12.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
The stock market still facing uncertainty over President Trump's tariffs, but at least one Bay Area business owner sees opportunity.
We might have a little sweating to go through here right now, but the end result is going to be their positive.
Now, today we are meeting a local cattle rancher looking at a silver lining and why it might be a much different story for California's other cash crops. Plus, hotels transformed into housing, giving people like Susie a place to call home.
Where would you be were it not for this SRO?
If it wasn't for this SRO, then,
Today, we are taking you inside San Francisco's new approach to tackling homelessness and the strategy of flow. And we'll introduce you to a blind singer whose path through hardship led to center stage at a Bay Area Panthers game.
That's when I figured out I could sing. I was like, oh. Everybody was like, wow, we didn't know.
Well, thanks for joining us. Let's begin with our first alert weather. We're not going to see much of the sun today, but another warm-up is around the corner. Meteorologist Zoe Mintz has a look at our forecast.
A little bit of rain fell early this morning as a storm system passed well off to our north. So the southern edge of this storm system lacks a lot of that moisture. So we saw a little bit of something, a couple of hundredths of an inch to maybe a tenth of an inch up near Santa Rosa, but much drier conditions will continue throughout this afternoon. And we might even see a few more isolated peaks of sunshine by later this evening as the dry air is going to dominate basically through the rest of the week of weather ahead of us. We might be waking up early tomorrow morning with a little bit of that fog sticking around, especially down across the South Bay communities. But by Tuesday afternoon, look at the sunshine returning. Sunny skies, dry air, and slightly warmer weather by Tuesday afternoon. And by Wednesday, that's when the real warm-up will begin as high pressure begins to build overhead. But I want to remind everybody, even though it's going to be nice outside, don't forget to take your allergy medication because you might notice you'll be a little bit more sneezy by the mid to later parts of this upcoming week as that area of high pressure begins to build in. So do keep that in mind. We are going to continue to see quite a lot dry air as that storm system to the north not really packing a punch. It's high pressure that's building into the south that is really going to dominate. Again, Wednesday will be the warmest day this week, but high pressure is going to deflect basically all of the moisture off and away from the Bay Area. So even though a little bit more cloud coverage is going to arrive Thursday, it is still going to remain warm, still going to remain above average for the next 7 days. So that's good news for any outdoor plans you have. You should be good to go this week and into this upcoming weekend. It's just really early this morning that we're seeing a little bit more of that activity. Again, drying out by the afternoon hours. Wednesday and Thursday, the warmest days of this upcoming week. I hope you all can get out and enjoy it. Just don't forget the sunglasses.
President Trump escalating the trade war between the U.S. and China. And this morning, he announced another round of potential tariffs after a tumultuous open on Wall Street. In a new social media post, the president said if China does not withdraw its retaliatory tariffs, the U.S. will impose an additional tariff of 50%. That would go into effect on Wednesday. Today, CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger broke down the tariff turbulence.
It is uncertain how long these tariffs will stay in place, because if these tariffs, as they are have been announced, and the retaliation, if they stay in place for a period of time, I'm talking more than 4 to 6 weeks, then we are likely to see an economy that will slow down, perhaps slide into a recession, and we're also going to see prices start to rise.
The 10% across the board tariffs kicked in this weekend ahead of harsher reciprocal tariffs on around 90 countries scheduled for Wednesday. President Trump says foreign leaders are calling and trying to make deals. Experts say agriculture will likely be one of the first industries to feel the ripple effects of these tariffs. And California farmers are worried the losses could be in the billions. But Arlen Ramirez checked in with one local rancher who believes the short-term hurt will give way to huge long-term gains.
Well, these calves are weighing somewhere between 450 and 500 pounds.
Jim Warren is a San Benito County cattle rancher, and for much of the last 50 years, he's seen how foreign countries have increased tariffs on American beef, making it difficult for ranchers like him to make inroads into their markets.
A few years ago, we were doing some research with the Japanese market, and we found out that the cars that came here were charged a 2% tariff, and our beef was 38% going to Japan. It's ridiculous, the tariffs that we paid for our product to go to the Pacific Rim, the European Union, and other countries, and they don't pay anything like that on the products they send us.
So he's all for the tariffs, even if it means disruptions.
So we might have a little sweating to go through here right now, but the end result is going to be they're positive.
But it's a much different story with many of California's other top agricultural products, which will fall victim to the coming trade war and retaliation from foreign countries, according to UC Davis agriculture economics professor Colin Carter.
Because California agriculture is driven by exports. It's a $60 billion industry, and 40% of California agriculture is exported every year.
Carter says the biggest loser could be California's #1 export crop, almonds.
Right now, as of today, with these new tariffs and China's retaliation, California almonds will face a tariff of 69% going into China.
And he says it's likely to have an impact on ag-related jobs.
California agriculture could lose, billions of dollars in revenue. And if that's the case, there's only one outcome. You're going to see bankruptcies. You're going to see reduced production. You're going to see job losses. As I say, it takes us back to the 1930s.
As for grocery store prices, Carter says those are likely going up too. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says 60% of all fresh fruit and 38% of fresh vegetables sold in the U.S. are imported from other countries.
We're a little bit low on supply.
And Jim Warren says beef prices will remain high because of rising costs of production, loss of grazing land, and environmental concerns.
Well, the Trump administration, meantime, has revoked visas for 10 students at Stanford and UC Berkeley. That includes 6 current students and 4 recent graduates. Stanford says 4 of its current students and 2 graduates have been impacted, with another 4 at Berkeley also losing their visas. Stanford says it is not sure of the details, but this comes as the Trump administration targets international students over pro-Palestinian activism or criminal infractions. A campus spokesperson for Berkeley told us they are, quote, committed to doing what they can to support all members of our community as they exercise their rights under the law. Another shakeup at City Hall in Oakland. The chief of staff for interim Mayor Kevin Jenkins has just been fired. According to the Chronicle, that follows the discovery of a note in which Lee Hansen referred to Black people as tokens. Hansen had served as chief of staff for both Jenkins and recalled Mayor Sheng Tao. The note was one of about 1,000 documents related to the FBI probe into the former mayor. It was written in March of last year. Hansen, who has worked for chief of staff for more than 2 years, tells the Chronicle that the letter reflected comments made by Tao and were taken out of context. In a statement, Jenkins thanked Hansen for her service and said Deputy Mayor Burt Jones is going to take her place until further notice. We've reached out to Hansen for her response, still waiting to hear back. Tomorrow, voters in San Jose's District 3 are going to have the chance to pick who's going to represent them on the city council. The city is holding a special election because the previous District 3 city councilman is now sitting in a cell in the county jail. That area represents downtown San Jose, a city that thinks of itself as the gateway to Silicon Valley. Today, we're going to hear from the 3 frontrunners in the race. Our Tough and Feely begins with the 2 candidates with a sizable edge in fundraising.
We're working to get people off of the streets. 200 people died on our streets last year alone.
Matt Quevedo is a political veteran, but a first-time candidate, having previously run successful campaigns for current Mayor Matt Mahan and his predecessor, Sam Liccardo.
Is it different when your name's on the ballot?
Absolutely. It's a different experience. The great thing is the voters are the same.
Quevedo has joined a crowded field of 7 candidates vying to become the next city council member for San Jose's District 3, finishing the term of Omar Torres, who is currently behind bars awaiting trial on charges related to the alleged sexual assault of an underage boy several decades ago. And if there is one thing on which all the candidates apparently agree, it's that restoring trust in the seat is paramount.
Trustworthiness, transparency, authenticity are things that we really see resonating with folks. And so it's important to look voters in the eye and be able to tell them what you want to do.
Gabby Chavez Lopez is a newcomer to politics, but not to civic engagement. She is the executive director of the Latina Coalition of Silicon Valley, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering and educating Latinas. The 2 candidates agree that homelessness is one of the most important issues facing the district, but strongly disagree on the best methods of tackling it.
Our homelessness crisis is something that people are very concerned about, and making sure that people are getting the resources and the response that they need.
Quevedo, who works in the mayor's office, has adopted the get tough stance of his boss, supporting a proposal under which homeless men and women who repeatedly refuse offers of assistance could be ticketed or even jailed.
The simple truth is leaving people on the streets to die is not the right thing to do.
Which candidate ultimately emerges from the shadow of the Torres scandal remains to be seen, but there will be no shortage of work for a district office that includes the downtown core and urgent issues like homelessness and economic policy post-pandemic.
To be successful in a special election, you need more than money. But it's that acronym of MORE, M-O-R-E. You need money, you need organizations, you need resources, and you need endorsements.
Well, the third front runner in the crowded field is Anthony Tordillos. He serves on the city's planning commission, and he is framing himself as an independent who vowed not to take any outside corporate into his campaign.
I've talked to folks who were tired of the status quo. I've talked to folks who are tired of the impact that special interests have in our politics. I'm the only candidate rejecting corporate and lobbyist money. And I think folks are ready for a change and ready for a council member who they know will go to bat for the people of District 3 first and foremost.
All right, so we will be following it again, that election taking place tomorrow. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, why San Francisco's work to address homelessness not keeping pace with the challenge. We're going to meet the people in the middle of the city's flow strategy.
I was domestic violent homeless. That's how I came to live in the hotels.
Plus, how a neighborhood in West Oakland is working to change the perception of their neighborhood with a new shopping destination.
I've seen this neighborhood change quite a bit. All of the train tracks are gone, all of the streets are suddenly paved.
And how a Bay Area musician is using his talent to try to stop a music festival from going silent this year.
We saw a little bit of rain early this morning, and those drizzly, misty conditions might stick around into the very early afternoon hours, but quickly drying out with just mostly cloudy conditions and slightly cooler today. A lot more sunshine arriving tomorrow, allowing our temperatures to warm up just a bit. But by Wednesday, that's when the real warm up will arrive. 80 degrees returning to the forecast with plenty of sunshine, staying near 80 on Thursday as well, even with a bit more cloud coverage. So enjoy the dry and warm weather this week.
All right, checking in on the long-standing battle to reduce homelessness in San Francisco. The city's ever-increasing efforts to address the issue just have not been keeping pace with the challenge. Sharky Laguna, the chief data officer for the city's Homeless Oversight Commission, has been working to try to better understand why more people placed in housing and more spending is not translated into more success.
This understanding of how many people are flowing in and how many people are flowing out, that's critical to understanding where we are.
Well, back in February, in the first part of this series, we looked at this idea of system flow and how it might explain what we're seeing on the street. In the second part of the series, we looked at one very cost-effective way to improve flow, and that is keeping people from becoming homeless.
I literally, I probably would have been one of the statistics out in the street because
Yeah, for some, like Cherie Kaslowski, it was a matter of short-term rental assistance while she battled cancer, keeping her in her own home. So now we're turning our attention to the next part of the flow equation, and that's the people already inside city-provided housing. People flow into housing, but as Wilson Walker reports, not nearly as many flow out.
Yeah. Hey, kitty. Sorry.
Along with her cat named Kid, Susie Melkonian is settling in to her Tenderloin SRO. She has her own bathroom and shower, and she saves space with this.
Like we are at the beach. It comes down like that, and you can put it up to your level how you want it. Ta-da.
The small room, she says, is a blessing.
I was domestic violent homeless. That's how I came to live in the hotels.
And for Susie, this hotel finally provides permanent supportive housing after bouncing all through the city's system.
Been in shelters, safe houses, transitional housing.
Where would you be were it not for this SRO?
If it wasn't for this SRO, then I don't know. I don't know where I would be.
I pushed the city. The city was not using these hotels for permanent housing until we created a modified payment program in 1989. Prior to that, they were just used for temporary housing.
Randy Shaw founded the Tenderloin Housing Clinic back in 1980. And when he started placing people in the city's old hotel stock, they were often very brief tenants.
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. When we started doing homelessness in '89, people I interviewed were all like laid off lumber, warehouse workers. The deindustrialization of the period impacted them, and they wanted jobs. So they were in our hotels for a very brief period. They got a job, and they went out. They weren't homeless anymore.
36 years later, the clinic's portfolio of more than 20 properties is a cornerstone of the city's effort to house the homeless, a mission that in the 80s might have meant providing some temporary help.
But that's a very different world than we inhabit now, where the people coming in are far more in need and have addiction issues.
It's a variety of people to themselves, don't want to be bothered with nobody. I've been through enough in life to just leave me alone, right? To very mentally distraught, that really can't control their mental health, cannot control it.
The city has tried to address the mental health and substance abuse challenges inside permanent supportive housing by deploying case managers, but that help simply has not kept up with demand. What is supposed to be a case manager to housing unit ratio of 1 to 25 has often been closer to 1 to 50.
And the city says, well, that's great because we're funding case managers. And we'd say, well, they're not required to use the case management. And often some of the most troubled people don't use case management, which they need the most.
Drugs and mental health, however, are only part of the story. Susie, for example, falls into another category. She, like 50% of the SRO population, is disabled. And all of this brings us back to the idea of flow.
Seniors, people who are severely disabled, chronically ill, severe mental health issues. Not everybody is a candidate for standing on their own 2 feet.
With an older, more troubled population, the challenges inside supportive housing are in a way driving the city's inability to find enough of it. More of those flowing in are not, or simply cannot, flow out.
Right? When we put somebody in permanent supportive housing, it's permanent. It's right there in the name. The challenge, though, is if the average length of stay is 10 years, say, then every 1,000 people you put into the system, you only lose 100 every year on average. Just assume 1,000 people are entering the system every year. And that's how, over the course of 10 years, 1,000 people turns into 10,000 people.
And your cost balloons.
Your cost mushrooms, which is precisely what we've seen.
So it's another way in which the city's successes, putting more people into housing, are being obscured by the fact that more people are becoming homeless, many of them with nowhere else to go.
So I couldn't afford to live anywhere. I wouldn't be able to live anywhere. That's pretty sad. That's pretty sad because I'm not the only person like that. There's so many people that are in the same predicament as me.
The Lurie administration has been making changes to how assistance is offered on the street and who is eligible for housing, though it remains to be seen what changes might be coming for those who are already inside. And all of this raises some obvious questions. First of all, who is getting out of permanent supportive housing, and how can we best help those who can stand on their own 2 feet get moving in that direction? Remember, many of these challenges have been developing over generations. And in recent years, the city has vastly expanded supportive housing. So the scale of this challenge has grown immensely, and the city's growing budget problems will only make finding solutions that much more difficult.
Meantime, homeless advocates in Alameda County are protesting this morning as city crews remove tents from the encampment around Lake Merritt in Oakland. City leaders plan to shut down the park so workers can plant trees and put up new fences. Spokesperson for the city says that outreach workers are offering the campers services and shelter, but protesters say sweeps are not the solution.
They say they are doing this because they're looking out to beautify and protect the waterways and estuary. But what about protecting our people, our unhoused community, our families, the most vulnerable of our community?
A little more than a dozen people right now live in Peralta Park. What were once vacant buildings have become a gathering place for the community in West Oakland. The brand new Prescott Market celebrated its grand opening this weekend in the newly transformed space. Amanda Harry has more on the work that it took to get to this place.
Previously abandoned buildings in West Oakland restored and repurposed to be a gathering space for food, drinks, and entertainment called Prescott Market. Owner of Woo Can Cook, Wesley Woo, became involved early on.
I believe the first tenant that had signed a lease here.
He was operating Woo Can Cook as a pop-up restaurant. At the time, he was looking for a permanent space. But everything was out of his price range or didn't have a vacancy. Then he heard about the new community food hall.
I just knew that, something cool was going to happen here, so I wanted to be a part of it.
Woo has lived in Oakland for more than 2 decades, but for the last 2 years, he's lived in West Oakland, walking distance from this facility.
I've seen this neighborhood change quite a bit. All of the train tracks are gone. All of the streets are suddenly paved.
This is a hit right here. Sandbox.
General Manager of Prescott Market, Harv Singh, says the changes were wanted.
I think community has been waiting for something like this.
The hall currently has 9 businesses and room for 1 more. All local restaurants, a coffee shop, and a tap room. Singh says it took 3 years and a lot of work to get to Saturday's grand opening.
We did have to do a lot of cleaning up, but there was already some good things happening here. I think we just added to that.
Prescott Market was already in the process of building out when it was announced they would have a new neighbor, the Oakland Ballers. They play all of their home games just a block away from the food hall at Raimondi Park. Wu says Raimondi Park was a mess when he first moved in, but has transformed into a destination. He expects Ballers games to be big events for the neighborhood.
It's going to be great for business. It's also pretty scary because, like, I don't know how to serve 5,000 people.
But he says he and all of the vendors are excited to figure it out and to help build something bigger than their individual businesses.
It's not just like creating something for you to eat, but creating a community for you to be a part of while you eat those things. So.
Hey, cheers, you guys. Cheers.
Revitalizing West Oakland with the community in mind.
Yes, sir.
Still ahead, an annual jazz festival put on pause this year in San Francisco. Meet the man known as the Black Liberace, who's making sure the music stays alive.
It doesn't have to stop. And I feel canceling it is a no-no.
San Francisco's Fillmore District hosts one of the largest annual free jazz festivals here on the West Coast. I've been there. It's a lot of fun. But this year, the party appears to be off. Organizers say they don't have the money to bring the Fillmore Jazz Fest back in 2025. Well, one man is doing whatever he can to make sure the show does go on. Andrea Nakano introduces us to the man known as the Black Liberace.
That's the new thing.
It wasn't a coincidence that Ricardo Scales developed a passion for music. His mother, Patience Scales, started teaching him at the age of 5, and he hasn't stopped tickling the ivories since then. After decades of playing at iconic venues throughout the Bay Area, he's now using his talent to try and save the Fillmore Jazz Festival.
It doesn't have to stop. And I feel canceling it is a no-no.
As the minister of music at Jones Memorial United Methodist, Scales knew of a way to keep the event going this year.
Because the church really dig about it. It's like a concert hall. There's some seats, there's a stage, there's a piano, and there's some microphones. So let the show go on.
He will be calling musicians with Bay Area roots to perform at several different churches in the Fillmore district. There might be a minimal charge this year to pay for basic costs and raise money for next year.
The show will go on. No matter where we at, we're going to still do the show. And that is how you survive. And people will come.
News of the Jazz Festival being postponed until 2026 quickly started spreading in the Fillmore.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be sad that it's not going on this year.
The Merchants Association says revenues from sponsorships and grants haven't returned to pre-pandemic levels, so they had no choice but to postpone the free event.
It's a money situation, and I can't do nothing about that because I'm broke, you know.
Leaving a void in an area filled with a rich history of local music and artists.
Fillmore was like Harlem is in New York. Then the Fillmore is that to San Francisco.
Scales says much like trying to make it in music, you just have to keep trying.
Somebody's always knocking you down, and in the music business, there's always a knockdown, you know. This or that and this. So the only way you can survive is you don't quit and you don't give up.
Well, coming up in the next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area, dozens of people have been displaced by a deadly apartment fire in the East Bay. How a neighbor did everything he could to try to save the people trapped inside.
I instantly ran inside with some other residents and we got the fire hose and unraveled one. We tried to bring it up the stairs. Other people ran in with fire extinguishers.
Plus, a transit milestone in the North Bay, how northern Sonoma County is moving ahead with a much smarter commute.
It's going to be great for the small businesses downtown. We have a lot of shops, restaurants.
I'm Ann Makovic, and this is The Minute. Interim Oakland Mayor Kevin Jenkins just announced that nearly the entire mayor's office staff is being laid off. This is effective on Friday. He says they're going to be on paid administrative leave until then. It comes a day after former Chief of Staff Lee Hansen was fired. The stock sell-off continues for a third day as President Trump doubles down on tariffs. The Dow plunged 1,200 points, or about 3% when markets opened this morning. Today, Trump also vowed to raise tariffs against China if they don't withdraw their retaliatory tariffs. And a 3-year-old in Petaluma killed after being hit by a tractor. The accident happened yesterday afternoon along Skillman Lane. Investigators arrested the driver for felony DUI and manslaughter. They have not said yet if the child and driver were related. I'm Ann Makovic with the minutes.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
A little bit of rain fell early this morning as a storm system passed well off to our north. So the southern edge of this storm system lacks a lot of that moisture. So we saw a little bit of something, a couple of hundredths of an inch to maybe a tenth of an inch up near Santa Rosa, but much drier conditions will continue throughout this afternoon. And we might even see a few more isolated peaks of sunshine by later this evening as the dry air is going to dominate basically through the rest of the week of weather ahead of us. We might be waking up early tomorrow morning with a little bit of that fog sticking around, especially down across the South Bay communities. But by Tuesday afternoon, look at the sunshine returning. Sunny skies, dry air, and slightly warmer weather by Tuesday afternoon. And by Wednesday, that's when the real warm-up will begin as high pressure begins to build overhead. But I want to remind everybody, even though it's going to be nice outside, don't forget to take your allergy medication because you might notice you'll be a little bit more sneezy by the mid to later parts of this upcoming week as that area of high pressure begins to build in. So do keep that in mind. We are going to continue to see quite a lot dry air as that storm system to the north not really packing a punch. It's high pressure that's building into the south that is really going to dominate. Again, Wednesday will be the warmest day this week, but high pressure is going to deflect basically all of the moisture off and away from the Bay Area. So even though a little bit more cloud coverage is going to arrive Thursday, it is still going to remain warm, still going to remain above average for the next 7 days. So that's good news for any outdoor plans you have. You should be good to go this week and into this upcoming weekend. It's just really early this morning that we're seeing a little bit more of that activity. Again, drying out by the afternoon hours, Wednesday and Thursday, the warmest days of this upcoming week. I hope you all can get out and enjoy it. Just don't forget the sunglasses.
Investigators in Fremont now searching for the cause of a fire that left one person dead, another person critically injured, and dozens of families without a home today. Broke out just after 2 a.m. yesterday at the Waterstone Apartments on Bidwell Drive. 2 people fell from the 4th floor balcony as crews were trying to put up a ladder to get them. Our Dahlin spoke with families who were displaced from their homes.
2 trapped fire victims screaming for help. A witness cell phone video shows the victims crouching down on the left side of a 4th floor balcony as flames burned inches away from them. There were a lot of witnesses on the ground, but they could do nothing as the 2 women were trapped about 30 feet above ground. Firefighters were rushing to the scene at the time. It was right before 3 o'clock this morning. Neighbor Dennis Holmes and several other people grabbed a water hose and fire extinguishers from the 1st floor hallway and ran up to the 4th floor to try to put out the flames. He says another woman was pounding on doors to evacuate residents in the 30-unit building.
The dark smoke came out after the door opened.
What was it like for you?
It was hard to breathe.
As Dennis sprayed water inside the hallway, his 15-year-old daughter Layla watched outside on the ground, feeling helpless as flames burned closer and closer to the 2 women.
It was just like, help me, like, help, and then like it was just screams of just like, help me and stuff. It's just shock. And I wanted to help.
The flames burned so fast and hot, eventually the women tried to climb down from the balcony. It's unclear if they were trying to get down to the balcony below. The video is too graphic to show on TV. Both women fell to the ground as firefighters arrived with a ground ladder. Firefighters say they could not get the truck with the ladder in because of all the obstructions in the parking lot.
It's always a reminder to us that seconds count with response times and everything else because, a few seconds either way can can change the outcome.
Witnesses say an older woman died at the scene. Firefighters rushed the other woman to the hospital who was in critical condition. Firefighters say the fire also injured 2 other adults. They're expected to survive.
Fire damage is to the one unit, but smoke and water damage to the rest of the building.
Of the 30 units, it's believed 29 were occupied. The Red Cross is helping those families. Dennis says it's unfortunate he couldn't do more to save the victim.
Hope they can pull through this, hope everybody gets the help they need, you know, and just makes you appreciate life a little bit more.
Wow. So workers are repairing and cleaning up the building. Right now, we don't know when some of the people that live there can go back to the building if their homes aren't intact. In the meantime, as Doss said, the Red Cross is helping them with temporary shelter. Gas prices are up in the Bay Area. You might have noticed that this weekend. According to new numbers from Gas Buddy, the average price in San Francisco is sitting at an average of $5.12. That's $5.02 in San Jose and Oakland. The national average sits at $3.59 per gallon. Yeah, people in the North Bay thrilled to hear that sound from the distant past this weekend. A train pulling into the station. It's been several decades since rail service has extended up to the northern parts of Sonoma County. As John Ramos shows us, the testing and imminent arrival of the smart commuter train has one town abuzz with excitement.
This is the North Santa Rosa Airport Station, currently the end of the line for the smart commuter rail system. But shortly, it will be making its move north to the town of Windsor, helping to fulfill an often delayed promise to voters. There was a time when people rode a pair of steel rails to the North Bay communities rather than a ribbon of asphalt.
This town was literally built as a railroad stop, right? Where we are classically was the railroad was right here.
Tim Zahner has looked forward to the return of the train to his town, but it has required an unexpected amount of patience.
Yeah, I've lived in Windsor now for almost 19 years and been waiting for the train about that long, so yeah.
The system began operation in 2017, but it hasn't always been a smooth ride. Along the way, there's been a major lawsuit, a global pandemic, and a rejection by voters of a sales tax extension. But now, Zahner isn't the only one excited to hear the clanging of the crossing gates and the blaring horn as the smart trains rumble back and forth from Santa Rosa to Windsor, testing the system.
We're testing all the signal, the crossings, the positive train control. This is a period of testing that's going to take the entire month of April. And what was special about this weekend is that with the onset of systems testing, we had the first smart trains rolling into the town of Windsor, through the roundabout, into the new station. It was very exciting.
The rail line was sold to voters as a way to connect workers to the Larkspur Ferry and on to San Francisco. But the farther north you go, the more people see it as a means of connecting the small towns, possibly for work, but also for entertainment.
This is, I think, going to be really helpful, having the smart train. People from Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Rohnert Park can come up, come hear music, get on the train, go back home.
It's going to be great for the small businesses downtown. We have a lot of shops, restaurants. They're going to benefit it.
The new station will only be a block from the Windsor Green, a spacious city park adjacent to a quaint downtown shopping and dining area. That's where Robert Nieto chose to open Fleur Sauvage, a shop featuring artistic truffles and gorgeous chocolate sculptures.
Yeah, you know, when we first moved in here, we saw all the construction and I was like, when is this really happening? And finally we're just like, oh my God, it's here. It's like, it was just like yesterday, like it had just started, like the build of it, and now it's just like running, and so we're really excited about it.
There are high hopes about what the train may mean for Windsor, and those are shared by Healdsburg, the next city up the line waiting for its service. But Zahner has a word of advice for them.
Don't hold your breath for that, yeah.
What, Healdsburg?
Healdsburg, yeah. That's the next step. We'll see what happens. But yeah.
You doubt that it's going to
Oh, no, it'll go to Healdsburg, but I'm just saying it's you know, like I said, when I moved here 19 years ago, they said the train's coming. And so it's how much time you want to wait, perhaps.
The final stop in the line is supposed to be Cloverdale, and years ago they built a train station which has sat empty. Smart says it will eventually reach the town, but at its current pace, it may feel like a long time for anyone holding their breath.
So Smart says testing and training will continue throughout the spring with a few soft openings. An official opening ceremony right now is planned for June 13th. Coming up next, could a home run off the field help on the field? Now the Giants' real estate investments could be paying off big time for fans.
All that is still being developed, and that is really the nexus of what goes on at the park.
We saw a little bit of rain early this morning, and those drizzly, misty conditions might stick around into the very early afternoon hours, but quickly drying out with just mostly cloudy conditions and slightly cooler today. A lot more sunshine arriving tomorrow, allowing our temperatures to warm up just a bit. But by Wednesday, that's when the real warm up will arrive. 80 degrees returning to the forecast with plenty of sunshine, staying near 80 on Thursday as well, even with a bit more cloud coverage. So enjoy the dry and warm weather this week.
Well, the Giants franchise is valued at $3.5 billion. That makes it the fifth most valuable team in the majors. Off the field, the team recently made headlines for its real estate ventures, particularly in the Mission Rock area near Oracle Park in San Francisco. Our Kenny Choi sat down with a longtime baseball analyst and an expert to learn how those off-field interests can affect wins and losses.
Longtime radio broadcaster Marty Lurie and his fellow Giants fans are celebrating at Original Joe's in North Beach for what they're hoping will be a magical season.
Now we have a few wins in there already, but where it's going to go, who knows?
The sights and buzz of opening day abound. China Basin Park, a project 15 years in the making, opened less than a year ago as the Mission Rock neighborhood continues to evolve.
All that is still being developed, and that is really the nexus of what goes on at the park.
The Giants have invested in the development and expansion of the waterfront area just south of the park. Other professional franchises have reaped the benefits of vibrant villages and economic activity around their stadiums. Nola Aga is a sports economics consultant and professor of sports management at the University of San Francisco.
The Red Sox are a great example. Lansdowne Street next to the stadium, owning or at least renting, managing that property, and being able to capture more spending outside of the stadium.
Just across McCovey Cove, 2 high-rise residential and commercial buildings have opened with Visa moving in, but still plenty of retail space and units available. Aga points to other successful developments like LA Live near Crypto Arena.
There are high luxury condominiums, and people who live in those condos are season ticket holders, and they frequent those restaurants. And so it's this deeper capture of spending.
But fans may wonder if their team can be impacted when other investments are made. The breakdown of finances can be complex, but franchises in most cases will separate those entities according to Aga.
It's more profitable for the ownership group as a whole, but usually the team itself is isolated from those other transactions.
That separation doesn't necessarily mean if an ownership group generates a ton of profit, they can't spend it on superstars to bolster its roster in the future.
It's always an option, is that you can invest more into the business. And so if you're generating more outside of the team itself, then you have that option to invest in the team.
That could give Giants fans even more hope for a deeper roster with stars.
I think it's sort of a false way to go down the road to say, well, they put all the money in real estate, they don't care about the team. They do care about the team, but they have to see who they have first, and then you spend the money.
A winning start and a thriving neighborhood around the park could lead to some good times for Giants fans.
Now to March Madness. Florida and Houston battling it out tonight for the NCAA championship. It is a matchup between two teams that may have been the best in the sport for the better part of a month. Houston coming in sporting one of the nation's best defenses, while Florida touts an explosive offense. They're going to collide in San Antonio's Alamo Dome for the men's title, and KPIX is your home for the college basketball championship game. It all starts today. 5:50 p.m. The game is also going to be streaming on Paramount+. Coming up, an inspiring singer born without the ability to see, how she found her voice through hardship and perseverance.
You know, if someone like me who's blind, who has a heart condition can do it, that anyone can do it.
Never give up, baby.
Well, the Bay Area Panthers shined a spotlight on people living with disabilities during last night's game, including 18-year-old Audrey Rose Walker. She was born without eyes, but it has not stopped her from becoming a very talented singer. Our Amanda Harry spoke with her as she got ready to sing the national anthem before the big game.
For many people, singing the national anthem in front of a stadium full of people would be intimidating. But for Audrey Rose Walker of Campbell, it's a fun privilege.
I was really excited. Like, I couldn't stop talking about it.
Walker was born with a severe heart condition and bilateral anophthalmia, the absence of eyeballs. Doctors told her parents she may not survive childbirth. If she did, her life expectancy would only be a few years. But after several life-saving surgeries, she's here, able to take center stage.
You know, if someone like me who's blind, who has a heart condition can do it, that anyone can do it.
Walker has a special connection to football. She discovered her ability to sing when she was at a fundraiser with former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick. She was just 7 years old, and they asked her to sing just for fun.
It's when I figured out I could sing, I was like, oh. Everybody was like, wow, we didn't know.
She had no training, just a finely tuned ear. She then went on to sing the national anthem when she was just 9 years old before a 49ers game. Her dad, Jim, says seeing her success makes him emotional.
Well,
I cry every time.
He says when she was diagnosed, he questioned what her life would look like.
Something that's on my mind a lot. What is she going to do? 70% or more of blind people never work. So what was my little baby going to be able to do?
But now, between her singing and her second dream of becoming a Spanish language teacher, she has a path and a purpose.
I'm just relieved that she has at least 2 options that she can turn to make a living and be a positive and constructive member of society.
She's 18 years old and will graduate high school, then attend West Valley Community College in the fall. It's one of many accomplishments she's excited about, as well as this opportunity to sing the national anthem before the Bay Area Panthers game. After her performance was over, she could tell she had made an influence on the crowd.
You know, being blind, you have to kind of compensate for your other senses, so I pay attention a lot to feel. I could hear everyone cheering, you know, and like saying good job and everything, and when people came up to me and like wanted to congratulate me, I really like that I can, you know, make people happy with my voice and share my voice with others.
Showing people you can make a difference without sight.
So impressive. Well, we want to remind you that CBS News Bay Area is the official home of the Valkyries' inaugural season. More than 30 games are going to air on KPIX and Pix Plus. Preseason kicking off on May 6th with the Valkyries' inaugural regular season starting on May 16th. Well, thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to be right back with your First Alert forecast and another look at your top stories.